Let's make the best shortcrust pie pastry ever. Hello everybody. Today I'm making pastry, but this is an updated version, and the reason I'm doing this because I wanted to make the perfect batch of pastry to make 12 of my fabulous pies. So without any further ado, let's crack on with the ingredients, shall we? For our batch of pastry. So in the container there, I've got 500 grams of all-purpose plain flour. Into that, I'm going to put about a 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Here, I've got 125 grams of shortening or butter. I'm using butter. You can use shortening if you prefer, or even margarine. In the UK, a lot of people still use a brand called Stork. That's perfectly acceptable. Here, I've got 125 grams of lard. This is simple animal fat. It's a product we buy here in the UK. It's quite inexpensive. In other countries, they may call it beef tallow or even beef dripping. This is just a simple, all-purpose pork lard. So what we're going to do, I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to put our chunk of butter in there, and I'm going to put our lard in there as well. So I'm going to cut the lard into thin slices. And yes, you can do this beforehand. Let's just cut the lard into those big slices. Let's just cut them in half, shall we? Okay. There we are. And now it's time to get my hands in. And you'll notice the plasters on my hands. I have 2 cats, and we love playing with our cats, but obviously they scratch. So these are just 2 small scratches that I've covered up for hygiene purposes. So let's get our hands in. The whole point of this now is to incorporate the flour into the fat. And what we're going to do, this is called the rubbing in method. We're going to rub the fat in to the flour until it becomes a breadcrumb-like appearance, and obviously a breadcrumb-like texture. And whilst you're rubbing in, you are going to get those instances where you spray the flour everywhere, which, whilst it's a little bit funny, it's also quite annoying. So just rub, and as we rub in the fat to the flour, we will notice 2 things. Our fat reduces in size into small particles, and at the same time the appearance of the pastry is changing colour. It's becoming the same shade almost as the butter you're using. So basically, rubbing the fat into the flour means with the tips of our fingers and our thumb is doing most of the driving, and the tips of our fingers, if we can just do a close-up just to demonstrate the whole rubbing in method. So if you can see what I'm doing with my hands, those thumbs are working the butter, and they're rubbing the butter into the flour, and our pastry is becoming a breadcrumb-like texture. That is a wonderful breadcrumb-like texture. You're going to get a few tiny lumps left in there, but I'm going to be honest with you, as long as you've got 95% of the lumps out, a couple of stray lumps aren't going to make a great deal of difference to your pastry. So once we've achieved that wonderful texture, let's get some water in. Now here I've got 125 ml of very, very cold water. So let's just make a little well in the pastry, and we're going to pour all that water in there. And now you can use a spoon if you like, but I prefer to work with my hands. So let's just bring all the flour in from the outside into the middle. And this needs to be done slowly. And you will feel the pastry coming together. And once you feel it come together, we need to work on the pastry to form a dough. It might be a little tiny bit sticky, but that's okay because we're going to finish it with a little bit of flour at the end. So our pastry, this is a bit of a similar process to when we do the bread. We're looking to get a ball of dough, and there's a little bit of moisture going on, and we're going to just clean the bowl up at the end. And of course I forgot to put a towel underneath the bowl to stop it from moving, but that's all right, I'm using my one hand. Okay, so as you can see, there is a batch of pastry that will yield 12 of my pies, and that there is short crust pastry. We're going to wrap that in plastic wrap now and pop it in the fridge for about 20 minutes before we use it. So as previously mentioned, we're making a dozen pies. There are the measurements of the foil cartons I'm using, and I'm just about to roll out the base. About 1/4 inch thick. Get that in the pie carton. And on this occasion we're using a lovely filling roast chicken, fresh vegetables in a lovely roast chicken gravy. I like to fill the pie, get the lid on. The lid's generally slightly thicker than the base. So let's get that lid on. There it is. All I need to do now is egg wash and some salt and pepper, and then bake it. The temperatures and times will be in the description below. Lovely golden brown pies. Absolutely perfect. I don't think anyone can refuse a pie that looks that good. I'm just going to demonstrate to you now it's cooked on the bottom, and just to demonstrate the consistency of the pastry, we're looking at a flaky biscuit-like texture, and it's got a little bit of crunch to it, but it's so easy to eat, and it really is so perfect for all your savoury pie needs or even quiche. That is my go-to pastry for all my pies. Hey everyone, if you haven't subscribed already, can I ask you to subscribe, push that notification bell to find out when my next video is. And you can always share, like, drop me a line, comment, let's have a chat. I'd love to hear what you have to say about exactly what I do. And if you love what I do, please tell your friends and join me on my journey in the food revolution. I'll see you guys all very soon. Time to get stuck into pie.